Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Heinz Company. As we head towards summer, it's time to start tackling those do-it-yourself projects around the house. You can get the same building materials and the same expertise as the biggest construction companies in East Tennessee by visiting A.G. Heinz Company. You see the phone number right there. You can check out their website. And this is a 100-year-old company. They're located right downtown. You can look it up. They even have a street named after them, right downtown in Knoxville. Get down there and see them. They're still doing curbside service. They've got the social distancing, the whole 9 yards. A.G. Heinz Company. All right, let me welcome in the next member of our panel, our recruiting guru here, as well as other sports. We got Ryan Callahan from GoVols247.com. Ryan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Whether it's the NFL, other pro leagues, a few college talking heads, the view seems to be get going with sports in September if you can, with a small crowd, if anything. Then it starts to ramp up with a little bit more crowd in October and then a bigger crowd in November. I hope that's the case. If you're asking me, and everybody's still talking about a second wave of COVID, it would seem to go the other way in my view. But let's just play the game here. That's what they're aiming for. Let's say that's what happens. Best case scenario. How would that impact Tennessee, Ryan? Let me show you the schedule for the Vols. And I just went ahead and put up if we can get to it, don't know that we can. There we go. Right there, September, October, November. You see the games, you see where they're playing. And I just gave a random, quarter capacity to start in September. Half capacity in October, full capacity in November. And that's ballparking it. But if the gist is it's fuller at the end than at the beginning, does that help Tennessee or hurt Tennessee when you look at their schedule?
I don't think it helps them if it plays out that way, because the biggest home games on Tennessee's schedule are in the first 2/3 of it there. You see Florida obviously being the big one early, Alabama in October. So you'd be missing out on the chance to have a big disruptive home crowd for those games. And then for November, your biggest road game of the year, or one of your toughest road games of the year at Georgia, you're going on the road when they can have a full capacity stadium again, and your home games that month aren't very big. So I'd see that as a negative for Tennessee if it plays out that way. I'm with you. I'm a little skeptical of it playing out that way, but that's an interesting idea to think about, Tennessee missing out on the chance to have those big home crowds for the big games at home and then having to go on the road and play a big game at a packed house at Georgia. Maybe.
Yeah, it's one of the things that they've been talking about in the NFL is, I'm a Patriots fan, and they've got the Chiefs and the Seahawks road games early. So the media up there is looking at it saying, well, that just might be a break for you if you don't have to deal with them and their crowds, which is what makes it a tough place to go. Tennessee would get a benefit of not having the crowd at Oklahoma if that game is played off in front of a small capacity crowd. Bob, your thoughts? Do you think that plays out in Tennessee's favor or
No,
against
not
it?
at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't play out in Tennessee's favor at all. My question is this: when you talk about a small capacity crowd, is it going to be limited by
Well, that's the
we're only
idea.
going to have so many people in?
Yeah, that's the idea, and that's why I just threw out numbers to make it more tangible.
Boy, I tell you what, I don't think that helps Tennessee at all. And if I'm Tennessee, I'm hoping if we're playing football, we're just playing football and the crowds be what they may. Because, a small crowd against Florida, I've been there for most of the Florida home games for the past who knows how long. And even when Florida thumps Tennessee, at the beginning,
Right.
It's an electric atmosphere. Maybe Florida's superior and that electricity goes away by the second quarter. But it still helps you. And this year with a team that looks like it's going to be more on a level footing with Florida, and you take away that electricity from it, and then you got all the baggage that comes. No, I can't see that. I think it hurts Tennessee in a bad way, if that's what happens.
Especially that September thing, if you're dealing with small crowds there, as you say, you're losing Oklahoma, which helps in terms of them not having their support. But that Florida game is so key to Tennessee's season year in and year out. Now, it's going to be a little different with Georgia late this year, but it's that is such a bellwether game that you can kind of tell where Tennessee's season the mood of the fan base goes up or goes down based on that one.
Yes.
And it kind of stretches over the rest of the season. So that's a bad break. The other thing is when you look at if you have tiny crowds, if they've limited it early and they say, okay, it's just family members and a few university folks can be there. That's one thing. But you've got all four. If they start opening up in October, November, you've got all four of your conference road games in October and November. It wouldn't be one of those years where you're going to the Swamp. That's just Tennessee's luck. If this were September and you were going to the Swamp and they couldn't have their crowd,
Yep.
hey,
There you go.
But it's different when you've got all four of these big games in the last 2 months when you're expecting to have a little bit bigger crowd. Well, when some of the leagues are talking about having a bigger crowd. Again, I wonder about that. But it is going to be interesting to watch. It could play out differently based on people's schedules.
Sure. And
No.
Just when you play who.
yeah, and like you, I'm a little skeptical of that idea just because I don't see. To me, it's either you make a decision, we're going to have a limited stadium for the season, and like you said, if you bring back in more fans, to me, especially if there's a second wave potentially coming this fall, you're just inviting the potential for more outbreaks to me.
And the reality is, like everything else in this, it's going to be state to state, and maybe even locale to locale inside the states.
Sure.
In terms of
Well, I mean,
so-
Nashville and Knoxville have had different experiences with this. So
And
does
Memphis,
Vandy
yeah.
have a different experience than UT does? You know, of course, I'll be glad if they say, Bob, you can't go to the Charlotte game. Thank you.
That's right. Not going to be crying over the Furman loss.
Yeah.
We're going to the Furman game. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about ESPN's future rankings. They looked ahead at the next 3 years, and they said these are the programs we think are going to be the 25 best programs in the country over the next 3 years. Did Tennessee make the list? We'll discuss, and we'll tell you whether or not they were right or wrong about it. Come on back.